does.
Oh my gosh. Okay, well, guys, I am Joy Michelle. This is Haley Grace.
Hello.
Her channel is linked down below. We are just doing a collaboration right now to talk about styled shoots and the importance that they play in your business if you are part of the wedding industry.
Absolutely.
So, when did we do our first styled shoot?
Oh gosh, it was years ago. It
Like
must have been like
3 or 4.
Yeah, I think it was about 4 years ago was the first time we ever did a styled shoot.
Right.
Which when Joy started talking to me about styled shoots at first, I like had to do a little research. I was like, some styled shoots, what are they? What should I even, begin with? But it turns out it's a lot like coordination. There's a lot of similarities there.
Yeah, and I mean, they're so huge for growing your business, especially as a photographer. I had seen so many photographers that I looked up to do styled shoots, and so that's where I contacted you and was like, let's do this thing. So essentially, what is a styled shoot? Like, what's the point? What's the purpose?
Styled shoots are awesome, and one thing I want to mention before we even dive into it is you may think, you had mentioned a lot of photographers you saw doing styled shoots, but they're not just beneficial for photographers. They're beneficial for every single vendor that's in there.
Right. The whole creative team.
Exactly. And so a styled shoot, the way I kind of always describe it is almost like a mock wedding. It's a way for you to get a lot of local vendors, outsourced vendors, resources, basically meet new vendors in general, bring together their services and what they're offering into your own vision. And so it allows you a little bit more to play with themes or seasons or things you might not be able to really flesh out on something that's a wedding day when you're hustle and bustle and you got to get certain shots or you're busy. So it gives you a little bit more time to kind of play around with what you're looking to do and the image and vision you're trying to get.
Yeah, and I feel like for me personally, I was able to show imagery and show what I was capable of before someone would maybe even hire me for a boho wedding or an elopement or something like that. So you're able to kind of just show what you're capable of.
Absolutely.
And then, like Haley was saying, coordinating with vendors that you would never otherwise have worked with. So we worked with lots of Etsy vendors online, and of course locally as well. So we have a ton of questions. Guys, ask your questions if you have questions about styled shoots, about planning them, what the uses are for them. There are so many different things that we could talk about just in terms of getting published from a styled shoot standpoint, and what that can do to grow your business and just the networking and the connections that it brings as well.
Absolutely. And feel free to, in the chat, type your questions. If you think of a question as we're going along, or you just want to, chime in with some commentary, feel free to do that. We want this to be interactive. That's the beauty of going live, is that you're able to, in a sense, have a digital conversation with anyone who's watching. So I love that, and I'm happy that all of you guys are watching. I know Joy and I are very excited to really be doing our first collab live stream. So it's super exciting.
This is super fun. Awesome. All right, so let's take some questions. I know we have some prepared questions.
Yeah.
So what do you think we should answer first?
Well, so we answered what is a styled shoot, right? And I think that one of the other really important things is, why do we want to do a styled shoot?
Right.
Why is it beneficial to your business?
Yeah.
So I think if you want to say from a photographer's perspective, and then I'll say from a coordinator's perspective.
Yeah. I mean, we touched on this a little bit earlier, but just essentially the whole concept of being able to show what you're able to produce photographically, where before maybe you even have had the chance to photograph a wedding, or maybe you've done a few weddings, but you want to show how you could do maybe an outdoor ceremony or show a different type of wedding, so different themes and colors, and really what you put out as a photographer is what you will attract. Right. So it's an attract and repel kind of thing, and so it can really help you to attract ideal clients. And so for me, I know that styled shoots were about growing my portfolio and making sure that I was putting the right imagery online, and then of course meeting other vendors, and I guess thirdly, getting published. So getting those links, getting into magazines, getting into blogs, and then that's more connections right there as well, right? Like knowing editors and being able to be in someone's contact book for whenever, someone at the knot might need some pictures of a certain color flower. And so they'll email you because they know you, they have an established relationship with you, and they know you're a photographer. So those relationships are hugely valuable, and then that just really positions you in the industry as an expert because you've been published.
Right.
So it's kind of just this all-around elevation of your brand when you do styled shoots. So that's why I do it as a photographer. Is it kind of the same for planners?
It's very similar.
Okay.
So when we did our first styled shoot, I fell in love basically with styled shoots because it was a portfolio builder, which was huge for me because I was still newer in the industry. I'd been in the wedding planning industry for about a year and a half, so I was still pretty new to it. And so getting that portfolio builder, especially since our first styled shoot was a cliffside at Calvert Cliffs. If you're in Maryland, it's a beautiful place, and it's absolutely gorgeous on the water. And so we did that, but it was a bohemian theme, and so it just allowed us to try out so many different things. I always think in my head when I think of the bohemian theme, I think of the amethyst. We use like these little amethyst crystal soaps as like favors essentially in the pictures, and it just is so stunning. So it was just really, really enjoyable. But as far from a business perspective, it helped me show people more so what I'm capable of, because when it's a little bit hard sometimes as a coordinator, unless you kind of have it in your contract to get some of those professional photos, or if you know the photographer you're working with on a wedding, sometimes it can be a little bit difficult to get portfolio builders.
I didn't even think of that. Okay.
So that's a fun tip. If you're a coordinator out there, it's important to maybe mention that to the bride, or include it in a contract or things like that. Just saying like that you're free to use certain images. Because most couples aren't going to mind. You're sharing their wedding, so they're not going to mind. But it's important to mention. But that's a side note. But so that really helps. Just have go-to photos. And so that, as well as what you mentioned of getting published, that was huge for me. Like, being able to have those press badges on your website adds such credibility from anyone who's looking for you as a vendor.
Yeah, so fellow vendors, brides, clients, it's like all around. It just kind of elevates your brand. It's social proof. It shows, you've been out there, you've been working, you've been hustling, and other people like what you're producing. So I mean, that's awesome.
Allison, I'm very jealous you're going to England. That is my heart and soul. I want to go to England so badly.
I'm going to England in
a style shoot in
3
England
weeks
too. That is like my
What did she
dream.
say? Okay,
can
Allison
I come? Is that an invitation? Because I'd like to come on this style shoot in England.
Okay, awesome. Oh my gosh, that's going to be really cool.
So, is there a theme for it, Allison, or is there sort of, what is the, kind of vision for that style shoot? If you know, I'd be super interested to know.
And Allison, you need to share a link eventually of the images and let us know where you get published and everything. So what your goals are for that shoot, I would love to know, because that is amazing.
Yeah,
a style shoot in England.
It's honestly like I'm containing myself right now, because that actually is like if you were to ask me like one of my dreams, that's gonna be on there.
Life goals. Yeah, we need to do a destination wedding somewhere in Europe. England for sure. Okay, so Allison Lee said she's working out the details now, but it's a gorgeous old hotel outside Lake District. Okay.
Love it.
Amazing.
I absolutely love it.
Probably going to be elegant and historic and upscale and everything that we love.
So if you have any questions too, or if you're thinking, ahead for the planner, if you want to get any questions going, hi from Tampa, that's exciting.
Yolanda, thank you for joining us. We're so excited that you're here.
You probably have better weather, although our weather actually kind of feels like Florida weather today.
Oh my gosh, it's
a little humid. Yes.
That might just be my house and these lights, but yeah.
Yeah, it's a little bit
funny.
A little bit humid. But so thank you for everyone who's here. Feel free again to comment and to chat. So moving on to maybe one of the other questions I received is, well, we can talk about featuring a little bit later.
Okay, Yolanda said it is 90 degrees today. Okay, so Allison also asked, what are the main publications you would suggest to submit to? And I would say, I have a video on submitting your work, and there's a checklist, a free checklist for how you can go about that process, because it is a little time consuming. But I would say that completely depends on your goals for the submission. So if you'd like to be print featured or digital featured like a blog, there are pros and cons to both. I would say if you haven't been featured anywhere, blogs are a great start, and they're actually kind of better for SEO and links and social media sharing. So honestly, in the long run, if you're looking to get booked, I feel like blogs are the unsung hero of the feature world. Like, they're amazing.
Quote from Joy. The unsung hero of the
feature world.
I agree. I think blogs are a great thing, and I think one thing to mention when it comes to publications, actually two things to mention. One is think about exclusivity. That's just a side
Yeah.
note. When you're publishing, some people, whether it's print or digital, some people ask for exclusivity, meaning that you can only submit work to them.
True.
And until they approve or deny it, you're not going to be able to submit to other publications.
Right.
And that's from a journalist perspective. They want that, first. Exclusive is like their keyword. So.
And then also once it's printed or once it's submitted and published, there is a period where you can't submit it to anyone else. But even for like Style Me Pretty or Burnett's Board or any of these exclusive blogs, they do have a period where at some point it releases back out and you can resubmit. So
yeah. I think it's important. And so the other thing I wanted to say too, and you asked what specific publications, I think it depends where you are too.
Yeah.
So if you're, we're in Maryland, so we really focused on some local publications within, Baltimore.
Right.
Was a big one, or within like the, Annapolis or Chesapeake area. And I think that's really important too, because if you think about it, from a business perspective, that's where you're going to be doing your business. You know what I mean? So I want brides that are going to be in Annapolis or in Baltimore to see my work. And so
that's why we're submitting.
Exactly.
So if you're submitting to fulfill your life goal of being in print, and it's okay to not attract your local brides, submit anywhere. Go big. National.
Toronto. Cool.
Yeah, I mean, and I know there's a lot of magazines in the Toronto area. I know there are blogs. So I would just do a little bit of research. I think there is a website called like Top 100 Wedding Blogs that literally has like the most, like it has, Style Me Pretty, of course, and then you're going to have Wedding Chicks and little descriptions in each of those that kind of explain what style they're looking for. Because you don't want to waste your time submitting to Style Me Pretty if it's a rustic wedding.
Exactly.
So that can kind of give you some direction. Hopefully that helps.
Yeah, I think that's super, super important. I think it can be scary to get published too, because it is, it's a little bit of a process, and there's a little bit of writing to remember. That was when we were first doing that, you had to kind of write a submission of what it's about, and so that can be tough too. So I think it's important to.
Yeah, but it's really worth investing the time in that blurb and making sure that you flesh that out and you talk about the idea and the inspiration and anything interesting or unexpected about the shoot that could make it stand out, because the whole point of the blogs or the magazines is to show something different, or maybe a spin on a trend, or maybe the Pantone colors of the year, but like used in a new way. So you have to think, you're trying to pitch it to them as like, you should publish this because, not just because they're beautiful pictures, but because the inspiration was good. So it is worthwhile, but I always have Haley write that. I can't write that.
I mean, I enjoy it though. I love writing all things, so
it works out. It's a good relationship.
Exactly. So moving on to another question I received. So are styled shoots just for weddings? Are they just for wedding
No, and that's really interesting because I know that some people who don't do weddings at all, so they might do like lifestyle, maternity, families, babies. You can stage or pose almost anything, and I know lots of people do like styled shoots, but they call it something else in like the commercial world, isn't it? Like oh my gosh, the word is escaping me. It'll come to me in like 5 minutes, but they'll do a day basically where it's like the pre-shoot. And they'll have hair and makeup and a model, and it's like a test shoot. I think it's
test shoot. It's definitely a test shoot,
but like in the fashion world, and it's so they pull pieces and they pull samples and stuff like that. Oh, Jocelyn, thank you so much. Okay, so it's weddingblogs100.com.
Perfect.
That's the website that has the top 100 wedding blogs, and so I think most of those will be exclusive.
Awesome,
because the top ones typically are. But yeah, have you ever done a style shoot that wasn't wedding?
I don't think I have, actually. I think I've only done wedding styled shoots. I've styled things that aren't weddings.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? Like in the real world. The real world.
Paid, day job.
Yeah, I've definitely styled things that weren't weddings. And I think it would be so fun to do like a lifestyle shoot.
Yeah.
Sometimes like on my channel, I'll do styling and things like that. And so sometimes that's where I kind of get to play around with it a little bit. But as far as actually putting it into, an actual planned style shoot, no.
Yeah.
I haven't. I've just done weddings of all kind. Like, we've done a ton of different themes, but.
And that's only because we work in the wedding industry, and those are the clients we're trying to attract. Exactly. But then I've seen tons of people do gorgeous shoots that have nothing to do with weddings, or they'll have just like a bunch of the bridal party girls. Yep. And they'll do some like really high fashion stuff, which looks really fun. So it's kind of in the same vein as weddings, but not exactly. So yeah, I mean, if you're not doing weddings, but you still are interested in the whole world of photography, I think editorials and styled shoots are still very much applicable. For sure.
Absolutely.
That's a good question.
Yeah, and that's something, I think a lot of people would just think it was just for the wedding industry. But you could really make it, useful for anything, especially like if you are maybe you're a smaller vendor, maybe you're an Etsy vendor and you're trying to get yourself into a style shoot, but you don't know how to do that. You could get into, you could reach out to coordinators or reach out to photographers and explain the idea of a styled shoot. Because sometimes people won't know what it is.
It's true.
So you'll have to explain. And one of the things, too, is a lot of times you try and make it a mutually beneficial relationship where they're donating their items or services and you're in reward, not in reward, but in trade, I guess, you're giving them experience and portfolio images.
Right.
And that's an interesting trade that if it's not presented well, could come across as sketchy.
Yeah, and that's actually kind of reminds me, I think, of a really frequently asked question that I get is people asking, do you pay for the things?
Right.
Are you getting paid? Like, how's that working?
Hi. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, guys, thanks for hopping in the chat. If you're watching and you haven't hopped in the chat yet, I want you to hop in the chat. I want you to tell me where you're watching from. I think you have to press play if you want to see, just make sure it's muted.
Yeah.
We're looking for your comments. We're looking for your interaction, guys. Tell us where you're watching from and if you've ever done a styled shoot or if you plan to do a styled shoot. I'm very curious. Or if you don't know what a styled shoot is, I would like to know. So throw it in the comment section. But yes, so a very frequently asked question that I get is about who gets paid, that kind of thing, because I know there's a lot of variance in the industry with styled shoots. And so I know, speaking just from our experience and what we've done for the past 4 years or so, every styled shoot, no one is making any money. Yeah. And I'm not paying vendors, they're not paying me. I have had assistants where I come on and maybe I pay my assistant, but that's up to me. And then for the most part, I haven't paid for any of the rentals or any of the items. Even most times they will send it to you and you can keep it. Yeah. I mean, we've been able to keep like a lot of stuff.
Soaps I mentioned earlier.
Or like the boho, there was like a handpiece and some jewelry. But then with fashion, of course, we send the fashion back. Right. What else have we rented that we sent back?
Any of like the stationery gets sent back, or like chinaware or tables. Yeah. We've rented from a couple different really cool vendors, and usually that's the kind of stuff that gets to go back. But you do get to keep some stuff from Brazil. That's exciting.
Jessica,
thank you for joining in.
That's awesome.
So it's really awesome to be able to connect with vendors in that way because they don't. South Africa, that's awesome. I have a friend there, so that's super exciting.
I'm so excited.
Croatia, you guys are cool.
Yeah,
this is great. Romania. Now I feel sad. I'm just in Maryland. You guys are from all these cool places.
Exciting. Yeah. Very, very cool. Oh my gosh, I want to visit Croatia. Tell me about Croatia and if I should visit. Because I've been Googling it a lot lately, which means it's going to happen, obviously. That's how it starts.
That's what it is. Oh yeah, for sure.
But like what you're saying, that is true. And I think it helps people understand what did we get out of it? What did they get out of it? And a lot of times, like you said, with the stationery going back to the vendor, a lot of times they design it for our shoot. It's completely custom, and they're giving it to us for free. But then they get images. They get to be featured. They're, of course, going to be credited in every social media platform or anywhere that it's ever featured. And then, of course, we send it back, and they can use it as a sample. They can show their brides. So it kind of just elevates their portfolio, and it steps them outside the box, and we can give them some parameters of colors or themes that they may not have normally had a bride ask of them. So it's really cool, and it helps them to add to their portfolio.
Yeah, it's incredible.
As well.
And they might not have, especially if they're, one thing to reach out for that is smaller businesses too. That's important. Because if they don't have the resources, right, and they don't have a bunch of photographer friends or people to style it or whatever, then that's essentially, we do that for them, and all they have to provide is what they're trying to promote and what they're trying to sell. And so I really don't see any negatives to it. Like, I just, as the more I do style shoots, the more I love them for that reason.
I think Haley makes a good point, though, that if you're reaching out to businesses that are on the same level or even like beginning businesses and small businesses, it's so mutually beneficial that there's really no negative to it. Like, they're going to get the images they want because a lot of times they don't have images or great images of their work. And I think especially online businesses realize how important good images of their work can be and how that can elevate their brand and increase their sales. And so they're willing to go for that and invest in that. So I think that's a really good point as well.
Yeah.
All right, guys. So if you have any more questions, we're going to wrap this up soon because we're actually going to head over to Haley's channel.
For part 2.
Yes, for part 2. So be sure to go right now into the description section, follow her channel, turn on the little notifications, and carry this conversation over because we are going to continue taking your questions, and we're going to be talking more from a planning perspective. We're going to be talking about how you reach out to vendors, what you say, how you pitch yourself, and which is, I mean, that's super important.
Key. Yeah, it's really important. And
to put your best foot forward.
Right, and so I also, I'm a public relations person as well, so, so that's helpful too.
You're like everything. So
I mean, no, but
it's true.
PR does help. I mean, that's what we do, is we kind of are able to present, a message, and so that's helpful to styled shoots as well. So if you want to learn a little bit more about where you begin to reach out to vendors, what you're going to say, all of that kind of stuff, go ahead and head over to my channel in the description.
Awesome. So guys, I am so excited that you guys joined us. Thank you so much. If you have any more questions, go ahead and throw them in right now. We're going to be wrapping this up. But hopefully we will let this buffer and it will upload and there will be a replay. I know a couple people asked if there would be a replay.
There should be, yeah.
It's going to be super fun at the beginning when we had some mic issues. So hopefully I can cut that out. But again, I'm Joy Michelle and this is Haley Grace, and
we will see you in 10 minutes for the other live stream at 10:45 on my channel, 10:45 Eastern Standard Time, because I know we have a lot of people watching from other places. So we'll see you in just a few short minutes.
Awesome. So part 2 is going to be on Haley's channel. Thank you guys so much for watching.
Thank you.